Why are you whispering?
Okay.
Why are you whispering?
I was just talking
Get
to
loud.
you. I don't...
Get loud right now. Get loud right now.
I don't have the energy
Hello!
to be very
Hello!
loud.
Welcome back to the Editor's Room podcast, the first episode with cameras. It's probably really uncomfortable for me to look right into the...
I don't know why we're doing it with cameras.
My name is Jackson Estwanick. I am the executive producer of MHSNews and The Messenger.
My name is Kavya Jain, and I am co-editor-in-chief of The Messenger.
I love every time I say that you look at me and nod in affirmation as if I needed you to tell me if it was right or not. like I could have said anything and you were like, no, you got it. You got it, bud.
I'm supporting you.
Thank you. I appreciate your support. You know, we need support around us at all times when we are doing so many things like running the video and the audio and the computers all at once, because if we don't have support, it can lead to burnout. And that is the topic of today's episode. I'm going to challenge you one of these days to do the intro to the podcast, because I don't think you can do it.
I'll give it a shot one day.
Do you think you could do it with exuberance?
Perhaps.
Oh my god. Why are you timid today?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just feeling a little bit low energy.
You want to talk about it?
No.
We should turn this into the feelings podcast.
That's okay.
I want you to lay it all out for me on the table right now.
Let's talk about burnout.
Burnout. So, burnout is a big deal for us, I think, because legitimately we do a lot of different things, especially me, because multimedia is literally multi-many. Like, it's in the name. But I wanted to talk about it today because I went through a lot of that last year, which I've talked about previously, but now I'm like chilled out and I think I've figured it out. But I worry about you and Marta. I think you guys are, especially her, I think she's on a path to some sadness, some great sleepiness in the future.
I don't know about that. I think like it's easier because with us there's layout, and that's just like 1 to 2 weeks of the month, and then we get time after that to recover, I think. And since Marta and I are partners, it's nice because we keep each other's energy up, and like we are both pretty optimistic, or like just, I would say when we're together, we're pretty energetic, or like we bring each other energy. Like we don't drain each other out. So like I think the fact that we lead together would help us avoid burnout.
True, but Marta did not go to school the other day so that she could work on the paper. Yeah. And that's what worried me, is that's what I started doing last year to finish the episodes. And then it's like a snowball. It just keeps getting bigger, and like what's it like when Marta stays out for one day to finish the paper? And of course, like, you guys have way more help, more staff. But what if it's like next month when there's less content done, so then Marta or you have to stay out? I
guess I just think that this issue was an exception with that, because we've never really had to do that last year, like where we miss a whole day of school. Yeah. Like, obviously, sometimes occasionally we will have to miss an hour or two. But the whole day thing was just because there was, like, Wednesday was a field trip, right? So there was no option. And also, I still think that it's because it's the beginning of the year and we're getting into the flow of things. So honestly, I just don't expect that to be necessary, like, in the future. Well,
yeah, because you have to make it an exception, you know, like, not allow it to happen again if you want it to be considered an exception.
Yeah, and we've kind of already talked about, like, well, what are we going to do differently this time so that people aren't turning in content too late. So we've like had those discussions, and I just don't expect it to happen.
What was the main issue, do you think, that you guys like diagnosed?
Well, we talked about how there wasn't the deadline where we're like, hey, everyone, print content needs to be done by whatever. Like, that isn't a real deadline. So we need to, from now on, we're going to make that a hard deadline. And unless you have like a real exception, you know, maybe your story will be cut from print because it's just too late at that point. And we kind of did enforce that issue 1. I think that it was more, that deadline was more like of a hard deadline, issue 1. But issue 2, we became a little bit lenient, and people would be like, hey, I'll get it done like whatever at this time. And we'd just be like, okay, thanks for letting us know. But I think, and from the future, we need to make it a hard deadline.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that you guys are experiencing this now, especially when last year, I mean, you were just the main editor-in-chief. And I guess this time around, it's like we didn't send the pages to the printer like early or anything, but they definitely didn't come out late. Whereas last year we struggled a lot to like stay on time with that schedule, you know? So I don't know. I wish she could have been here, but she had to work to like kind of explain how she felt about it, because she did stay the whole day to work on it. Not to say that she was any more or less devoted last year, but I wonder what the difference was. I
don't know. I just find that with the Messenger, each issue is different, and I just don't really think you can compare, like, I don't know.
Yeah, is it worth comparing?
I don't even think it's a comparison that makes sense, because each issue, you're working with different writers. You have different section editors. You have different content that requires different amounts of attention, and each story has you know a different level of news valueness or chances of inaccuracy. You know what I mean? So I just think it's hard to compare. And layout times and the level of productivity of people at layout varies every issue. It's just like, I don't know, comparison is like tricky, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm only comparing it because I'm thinking about like growth, like how has it changed over time. Yeah, I think about myself when last year I was in a completely different boat. I was doing a lot of it by myself, and that led me to like literally pass out after cross country practice one day because I was super tired. But I feel like there's always the comparison of like who has more staff, who has more hands on what, and what is that noise?
I think someone's taking out the trash.
Oh, they taking out the trash. What's up?
I feel like burnout is definitely something that like you deal with more just because you don't have as many editors on your staff. And I think that I don't think I deal with burnout to the extent that you do, just because there's more structure in terms of like people that have specific duties that they're responsible for and that like they're held accountable for. So I don't think that I always feel like the whole burden is on me the way that you do. And I mean, Marta, even last year, was always like, I always saw her as my partner, as my equal, which is why we decided to make that change, because like she did a lot of work and I could not have done it without her. So like I think that it was, if she wasn't like on staff last year and she wasn't the main editor alongside me, I probably would have dealt with it more. But tell me a little bit more about what that looked like for you and like why you think that happened and what you've done this year to avoid it, if you feel like you have.
Well, I feel like the main thing that I always wondered about you is like to answer your question, it's that like I had so much personally invested in it. Like I felt like everyone needed to succeed and get their stuff done so that the whole production could succeed. And a lot of that manifested in me working long hours on everyone's stuff, not even at an editing standpoint, but at a literally like it was their story, but it was also my story because I would be getting an interview or going out and recording for whatever. And obviously the act of making a video is much more physical than like writing a story. You know, there's more equipment involved and more moving and all that. So a lot more logistics. But I think the change has honestly been just taking a step back and not letting things bother me. I think this summer I learned a lot about like I interned at a local TV station, STL TV, and I think I learned a lot about what professionalism looked like, and I realized that my ideas were too rigid and too formulaic, and honestly like quashing things that I was making things too rigid, and because I was trying to force everything, that was like putting strain on me, and that's where all my issues came from. But now I have like taken a step back, and I've realized that we are still putting out content on a weekly basis, which was what was always the goal and what was expected, and we're not doing episodes, and that's fine. And I think the challenge turned into like it changed from like what are people thinking about us to now what are we putting out, which is I always considered like quality over people's opinions of us, but I was definitely more of like I want everyone to think it's amazing, and that involves me putting in my best. How do you feel about that? I always think about that. Like, whenever we'd put out an episode, I'd always go around and like ask literally every single person I could what they thought of it. But I don't ever see you being like, "What do you think of the paper?"
Because if I'm being honest, I don't think that other random people will be able to give us the kind of feedback that we want. I think really? Staff critique is more valuable to me because when people flip through the paper, they aren't looking for the things or thinking about the things that I am thinking about. I evaluate the paper in terms of like when I look at it and I'm like, hey, am I proud of this? Is this what I want it to be? I definitely have different standards of evaluating it than any random freshman who's reading the paper does. Like, so I don't look for like my audience to give me validation for the product. I think that what's more meaningful to me is like what the editors think of it and what the staff says about it, because I think they know the process more. And like, yeah, does that make sense?
I wish you like didn't just change my whole perspective like that. That was really rude of you. Because you're 100% right. What the heck, bro? That was such a thought bomb right there. No, I'm being for real. Like, how have I... These people don't know. Like, we want them to enjoy it, but they don't know.
I want them to enjoy it and read it and come away with, be like, hey, I didn't think about that. Or like, that's a cool picture. But they don't know the details of last issue and the details of this issue. They're not going to compare. And they're not thinking about, like, hey, was this narrative focused on the person or the event?
Shut the front door.
Like, they're not thinking like the way I'm thinking. So, dang. I think for me, when you were talking, I was like, I think what you were saying is, like, you've been avoiding burnout by, like, reframing.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I think for me, I definitely get, okay, each issue after layout week is rough, like especially towards the end, because you're like, we're so close. you know? And you're just like, I'm so tired of it. Like,
but there's always a million things to do.
Yeah, there's so many things to do, and you feel like you tell people to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't understand how this isn't getting easier, you know? Like, we do this every issue, but issue 8 is just as hard as issue 1. Like, it's no easier. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why? Why is it, you've done this for so many months. How is this still as difficult for you as it was issue 1? Like, I definitely deal with those emotions. But at the same time, I get so much time to rejuvenate and, like, to start enjoying it again. Like, at the end of layout, you're kind of like, there's always a second where you're like, why am I doing this? But right? Right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, why did I even, what is this? What is the purpose? But then we do brainstorming and we give donut awards, and I'm just like, I love this, and I love everyone, and this is so great, and I'm so excited for this issue, and I'm so excited to brainstorm again, and like, ooh, art, oh my gosh, photo illustrations, and I just get excited again, and I find out like why I like it in the first place.
You are like,
so it's like a cycle.
You're like a productive phoenix, and I'm like whatever Greek mythological creature just digs itself into the ground and then sits in a hole. Oh my gosh. This is so... Wait, I wanna come clean about something.
I'm scared.
So, Kavya texted me one night, like slightly before 11, and she...
The enneagram thing?
Yes. And she was like, have you taken the enneagram test? And I was like, what is that? And so the enneagram test, and you might have to explain this better than me. It's like a personality test, and it's...
I would just say search it up, because I definitely won't be able to explain what it is, but it's not your typical personality test. It has some basis in like religion,
I think
but
no, maybe, but I think what more likely is that it's not like oh, you're a kind person, oh, you're a caring person. It's more of like how you relate to other people and what your role is in a group. Mm-hmm. So mine was like, I'm like a type 4 wing 3, which means I'm an individualist, which is that should become apparent if it wasn't already. And I don't remember what was wing 3. It was like I'm an individualist.
I don't know, but wait.
I don't know. Look it up. But Kavya's, what was you? You were like peacemaker?
No, I was number 2.
That was peacemaker.
It's giver.
Oh yeah, Kavya was giver. So I took it.
Wait, can I read out loud some of the things that I had sent to you that were like, oh, this is a typical type 4, this is a typical type 2.
Are you going to share the memes?
I'm a type 2 wing 3, I want to say.
Yeah.
And you're type 4. And Marta, I think I wish she was here. She is a type 1.
We're going to get them on.
And she is such a type 1, and I think part of the reason we work well together because she's a type 1 and I'm a type 2. Maybe we should do another podcast later about personality types and leadership. Let's save this. Let's save this.
Okay.
Let's table it.
We'll table
We're going to table this. And we just thought of our next topic. Dude, and we're going to get Marta and Sean on this.
We'll take them live.
Take the test.
We'll take
the test. Okay. Yeah. And we'll put the link in the description so you all can take it too.
Oh my god. Okay. So anyway, the reason why I brought it up and what I'm coming clean about is that there was a bunch of questions, and it was like, I look to others for approval, or I care about what other people think. And for all of them, interrupt me one more time! Okay, so anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted for the second time, is that there are all these questions about, like, I care about what other people think about me. And for all of them, I answered no, which, you can't answer no, but I answered, like, the lowest, like 1 out of 5. And it was an honest answer. Like, I don't think, well, I have to make sure I phrase this right. Like, I don't consciously think, like, oh, I hope that so-and-so, like, gives a crap because I worked really hard, or, like, whatever, or I'm, like, trying to impress them. But every time I marked no, I also secretly knew that I totally do.
So are you saying that you might not be a type 4?
No, I definitely am.
Okay.
Like, don't get me twisted. Like, I definitely am. But what I'm saying is that, like, I totally do care, and so that's why your thing about, like, they don't know what we think about, so why should we care to that extent? Like, that's why that blows my mind. And also what you said is, like, has some, like, beautiful simplicity in it, but it's like, I don't think about that.
Like, okay, you know what it reminds me of? There's this, like, this phrase, like, what is it called? Like, not a cliche, like a proverb in Hindi, and it's, Bandar kya jane adrak ka swad. So, like, what does a monkey know of the taste of ginger?
Bars.
And that is just something that, like,
monkeys can't eat ginger?
It means, like, okay, so ginger is, like, can symbolize, like, in food, you can think of it as, like, oh, it's, like, elegant. You know, it's, like...
Okay.
Like, something of, like, high...
Yeah.
You know? Because it's, like...
Yeah.
And so it's, like, if you're not... I would say it's, like, similar to that. Like, why would you expect someone who doesn't know the intricacies of how a staff works, is not involved in journalism, is not on a staff, to appreciate what you produce or to appreciate something that's, like... And I don't know. That's how I think you could, like, think of it in a similar way. Like, I totally love to get feedback at the NSPA conference.
Of course.
I love hearing from people who, like, are involved with journalism. And I just think that means more to me than, like, what does the Marquette community think of our paper?
Is that... Do you, like... Let me ask you this. Like... The reason why I'm, like, super involved in journalism and why I do all the stuff and why I make the videos, and this is the same for Sean, who we will have on in the future, is that we want to win stuff. Like, that's why we do it.
But that's also interesting because you are motivated by awards, and we've talked about this a lot. I am not at all motivated
okay, but what
by
you
awards.
just said is that you...
Exactly, which is, like, weird
But
to
do you care...
Isn't
You
that so
care about
weird?
the opinions of the people...
But I don't. At the same time, okay, because the question was... Do you care about what people at Marquette, our readers, think? And I was like, no, I don't. But then, like, I was saying, like, I would value more what our people think about what we made, like, our reflections.
Yeah.
But then, like, I did talk about NSPA, and so, like, it's weird because then you would expect me to care about awards more than I do and to be motivated by awards more than I do. But I'm not... I feel like you are really driven by recognition, which is fine, which is totally fine. And I am just not, like, I can't even keep track. Like, the other...
So then what is it?
What am I motivated by?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I think I'm motivated by, like, I think
you're motivated by the people around you.
That's true. I'm definitely motivated by the people around me, but I think more than that, it's, like, the process. I just love the process of it. I love being a leader. I love the visualizing things, thinking about the big picture, like thinking of art, like creating something tangible, and then, like, the gratification of being published and, like, being a part of something bigger than yourself, and, like, also, like, I don't know, being part of a staff, like, the community. Yeah. I guess I would say, like, that motivates me. I don't know.
It's the people and the processes. Now that was some bars right there. Can you say that in Hindi?
No.
Well,
I mean, maybe I could. I don't want to think right now.
Spit some bars. No, I think that yeah, that's accurate. And I don't know. Like, I wish I could be like that. Why do I consider other people so much? You know?
Well, it's not about that. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to be motivated by awards. I think if that motivates you to produce the best quality content, then that's fine. Like, you figured out what motivates you. At the end of the day, you're creating good content, which is the goal. So it doesn't really matter how you get there. And I think the point should be that you shouldn't be broken down if you don't get recognition.
No, but see, I haven't won anything this year, and I feel like crap. Like, truthfully, I've not won a single thing, and I feel real bad. Except for that one thing that I won. The photo award. For, what was that, CSPA or NSPA?
See, I don't know. I don't keep track. I don't even keep track.
I do. I do. But I got that one, and I, like, didn't even feel anything. I don't know. Maybe I feel like I didn't deserve it. I don't know. So self-deprecation is an issue.
Maybe you aren't motivated by awards. You're motivated by you like you're competing with yourself, or like you want...
Dang.
Is that...
Competing with myself.
Do you think you really just want to be proud of your work? Is that what you're looking for?
Okay. Don't observe me like that. And literally...
I literally just restated what you said. And put a question mark at the end.
Okay. Time to come clean again. I just wrote my college essay for the honors college. Jesus. I just wrote my essay for the honors college for Mizzou. And the prompt was like, what is a goal that you have that you haven't achieved yet, and like how are you going to achieve it? And it was like 550 to 700 words like was the limit. And I wrote it, and I just turned it in. Like, I wouldn't even let my mom read it, and she really wanted to read it. Because, I think I suck at writing college essays. Like, I can't... It always feels like a gloat to me, and I can never figure out how to get a narrative in there. But what I wrote about was that my goal is to, like, be proud of my achievements. So, like, what I said was genuine. I just didn't... Like, I didn't feel like it was any good or, like, truly reflective of me. But like, yeah, I do really want to be proud of myself, but I'm like in my head so much that it's like, and then everything around me is like totally messed up because my energy isn't right. God, we gotta talk about energy. You think about energy?
Yeah.
Like Drake level, like I got energy, got a lot of energy, or just like
no, more
low-key?
More like what you... Like, the energy you bring to the room and, like, how your presence affects, like, other people.
Yeah. No, I think about it that way, too. I guess it's just, like, a self-centered versus, like, what's the opposite of self-centered? Like, group-centered?
I don't know.
Internal versus external?
I don't know what we're talking about.
Aren't you in psychology? Or was that me? I was in psychology. And I dropped.
Wait, you were? Okay, this is getting off track.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Wait.
I love doing this podcast because we talk about things and like I think they're insightful, but we also like we started on burnout and we're still kind of talking about burnout, but now we're also talking about...
Wait, there was something you said that made me want to say something and I can't remember.
What was it? I can just restate the whole thing.
Restate. What were we...
I'm competing with myself. You said that.
No, you said something else and I was like, I have something. Okay, I can't remember right
Who
now.
said? Me said? You said.
You said something, and I was like, I have something to say in response. But
about my college essay?
I don't know.
Oh my god, I think...
Oh, yes!
Oh!
You said that you want to be...
Proud of myself?
Of your
achievements.
Work.
Yes, proud of my work. That was the thesis of my essay.
Yeah, and... I was thinking, and I think that for me, it's not as much like, hey, I want to be proud of my work. It's me, or proud of my achievements. It's like a fear that I'm not gonna, that what I'm producing is not the best of my potential, or that I can do more. That, you know?
Hi, this is Jackson from the future. Right after Kavya finished talking, the camera died for like 3 or 4 minutes and I didn't notice. Not much I can do about that other than not be an idiot, but basically the rest of this podcast continues after I figured that out and restarted the camera. Alright, now we gotta do a clap sync and... Get off your phone just because we had a technical difficulty.
I was going to text my mom.
Doing math homework, texting your mom. What's next? Oh my gosh, stop.
I was trying to communicate to my...
Okay, here's my final thought. Is that, yes, I want to be proud of my achievements, but I also don't want to, like, drive myself... Like, I guess the closing question is, like, when is too much? And, like, what is good enough for me? If you feel the same and that you want to be proud of yourself, like when is too much for you and me, you know?
Oh, I have an answer to this.
Oh boy.
Well,
is there an answer?
Okay, I don't know if this is really an answer to the exact question you're getting at, but this is what I think about.
Yeah.
Like when the best way I can like explain it is like think that we have like a math test tomorrow, okay? and I'm like, I just like don't feel ready, and I'm just like preparing, and I'm just like confused, and I'm like, I know I can understand this, but at this point I'm just so confused and I just don't feel good about it, whatever. Mm-hmm. If I'm at the point where I kind of feel like I'd if the thought enters my head where I'm like, I don't even want to go to school tomorrow, like, or like I just wish I could be sick tomorrow, like that kind of thing, right when I think that, I immediately am like, what am I even talking about? Like I should be, that is when I know like that is, I'm just like, I'm expecting too much of myself.
When you think of like an extreme situation.
Or, yeah, when I'm kind of wishing that I didn't have to do something, because like then I'm immediately like, what am I talking about? I need to be grateful that my biggest worry is math. I need to be grateful that I even get to go to a school like Marquette, and that like math is my biggest concern right now. Like I am a healthy person and like I'm doing the best I can. Like what am I even talking about? And I think that's how I bring myself back, and I'm like, this is fine. And I'm doing the best I can. Like I think that is something I practice.
Okay. I guess that's my takeaway. You talk about like being grateful a lot.
Yeah,
I don't think I know how to do that. I think
like, yeah, I try to practice gratitude, or I've been trying to do that more.
Man, these teachers through the wall really be going to the bathroom a lot. Just be going and going and going and flushing and paper towel and. Ooh, don't they know that we're recording literally the coolest kid podcast right here, right now? In this hollowed brick.
You're so right.
I'm so right.
You're so right.
We have to do some poetry on here sometime.
You know, you do poetry and I'll snap for you.
Yes. Snaps.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you love seeing our beautiful faces. And what? What did you just point at?
I don't know.
You freak, you interrupted me. Anyway, all right, I think we're done for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we need a closeout. I don't know. Here's the closeout.